Jason Rillo here from Pinnacles Blog. This week's edition, I'm going to cover evaluation of your own exercise routine. There's been a little bit of news on Michelle Obama's exercise routine for her arms and whatnot in Women's Health this month, as well as on the Today Show covering the same topic. Before we get started, I wanted to check back. I forgot to mention something about last week's school lunches during the blog, and it's actually something pretty pertinent. At Francis Howell Central High School, there was a revolt last year regarding their school lunch program. They decided they were going to cut out all bad foods that they offered at lunch, and only healthy things. No pretzels, no chips, no candy of any kind were going to be served. And there was a revolt. They actually had to call a special meeting with the school board. Parents came in, students came in, and they completely complained about everything, about the fact that they were not given choices, about whether or not their kids were able to eat some of these things, and the foods that I listed there that weren't so healthy, like the chips and the pizza and the different things like that, those were added back in because of requests by the parents. So Francis Howell School District tries to do something good for the kids, and everyone revolts. So not everybody agrees on a healthy diet, and not everybody really cares all that much about it. Sometimes you try to do well and people revolt against you. Anyway, this week regarding the evaluating your exercise routine, how can you critically look at what you're doing and figure out if you're doing the right things? I mean, if you're on your own and you're exercising, you have no guidance, you really don't know. But how do you know if you've got a good trainer and you can trust exactly what they're doing to be what's exactly good for you and what's going to get you the best results possible? My example for this is I watched the piece on the Today Show regarding Michelle Obama's arm routine, and immediately figured out that the trainer probably doesn't know all that much. And I can tell you just by what I've seen of the extras of what I actually heard, the trainer knows a little bit, but there's more that they could know, and they could get better. She could get even better results. And they said, oh, they made a comment during the Today Show that your genetics don't play a role. No, let me tell you something. Your genetics play a large role in your results that you achieve from exercise. You're not going to have Michelle Obama arms if your arms aren't going to be as defined as hers. I mean, that's really something you can't control. You can diet down, but whether or not your arms become as defined as hers has less to do with the training and more to do with your combination of training, diet, and genetics. The routine that they list off for her on the Today Show is that she does 1 minute of hammer curls. Now, they do say that this is basically max, so that's a pretty good deal. She goes as hard as she can, and whatever weight she chooses is, or the trainer gives her, is so that she can't do much more than 1 minute of hammer curls during that, or doing more reps than just that 1 minute, which is pretty good. The time and attention is correct. But then they go into tricep press downs, and they say, oh, the weight should be 15 to 20 reps. Well, you're not maximally going to stimulate that muscle in 15 to 20 reps. And they did not mention, I mean, you could possibly, but they didn't mention maximal stimulation, and the demonstration actually was a submax, a very easy set for the person. And they say, okay, you superset that, or you add another exercise, another type tricep press down type exercise right afterwards. That's all fine and dandy, except there's no variety there. If that's the one, that's maybe the workout she does right now, but they didn't explain that. They act like, oh, you can do that, and you do that for 6 months, and you'll get results. They do, however, implement a mountain climber for an interval, and added cardio benefit or recovery benefit, and they say it tones your quads and hamstrings. That's not true. The only part of an interval, pretty much, is not really to fatigue the legs, but is more to get the heart rate up and burn some calories. So, and also improve your recoverability. So they mislead you a little bit in that regard. So I'm going to give you some keys to evaluating your own program, whether it be with one of our trainers, although I'm fairly certain that most of this stuff is done with our trainers. In fact, I'm completely certain, and if not, do let me know, and I'll make sure that it's followed. But if you're doing exercises on your own, or you know somebody who is, ask them to come to the blog and see if these keys are something that they follow. First of all, is it hard? Is your exercise routine hard? For that day, is it tough to complete the workout that you've done? You should be exhausted at the end. You should be wanting it to end as soon as possible. But you've got a set amount of time, or a set amount of exercises you got to do. At the end, it should be difficult. You need to stimulate, and in order to stimulate, you got to exhaust yourself, whether it be the muscle or the conditioning that you're doing or the cardio, whatever. In order for the body to see a need to get better, you have to stimulate. You have to make it hard. Number two, is it fast-paced? Are you wasting time between exercises? If you're wasting a lot of time, you're decreasing the intensity. Decreasing the intensity, obviously, get back to number one, is it hard? Decreases the quality control. It decreases the level at which you're going to achieve the results. Number three, is it heavy? Meaning, is each individual set or the cardiovascular conditioning, if you're doing cardio or some type of conditioning workout, is it very difficult for you to do for the given time that you're there doing it? If you're doing a bicep curl exercise, is the weight difficult? Is it heavy? If you're going for 12 reps, you shouldn't be able to get 13. If you can, you should do 13. If you're trying to do cardio and your goal is to do 30 minutes, the last 2 or 3 minutes should be very difficult. That means you've stimulated the body to get better, whether it be with a cardiovascular or strength type exercise. Maximize the benefit for the time that you're actually doing that exercise. Number four, is there a lot of variety? If you are doing the same things over and over again, your body will get used to it. That stimulation that I was talking about, it happens on the first few times you do it, but if you do the same workout too many times, the body stops. It basically says, oh, this is old hat, I know what I'm doing here. I can do this, no problem. So unless you even if you continue to raise the weight, eventually the body will make such an adaptation that it kind of plateaus and doesn't get much better. So you need variety, constantly changing it up. There are 15 bicep exercises every time we make a variation, whether you go to an incline or you do a pause at the top or a pause in the middle, or you go extra slow on the way up or extra slow on the way down. All those things change the exercise slightly. So even if you've only got a few exercises you can do, changing the cadence, changing the way you do it does in fact change the exercise. So mix it up as much as you can. Mix up the order. Mix up the rep speed. Different things like that. All those things give you some variety. And that will lead to better gains overall, less plateaus. Last thing, do you allow for adequate recovery? Everybody thinks they're Superman or Supergirl. However, that is not the case. Now, if you take steroids, you have unbelievable genetics, things like that. Those will play a role. But for the most part, as far as strength training is concerned, you need to make sure you rest a day between extra strength training exercise. Every once in a while is not going to hurt you, but if you are day in and day out planning that you're going to strength train every single day, you're missing the boat. Your body does not get better during the strength training workout. It gets better when it recovers from the strength training workout. So you need to allow for a day of recovery, a day of rest. If you're doing some kind of a cardio or mixing it up that next day, you can still exercise. But as an overall thing, we want to strength train every other day at least. If you're doing a full body routine. Even if you're doing a split type routine, somewhere along the line, somebody figured out you could split up the body parts and think that it's different. As long as your arms are moving, your rotator cuff isn't active. If you're pushing, your triceps, your back of your arm is inactive, your shoulder isn't active. Those muscles are not working independently, and your bodies tap into the same endocrine system, the same fuel recovery system. All those things work interchangeably. So you got to understand that you need some time to recover. So if you're going to work out 2 days in a row, you better make sure somewhere in there you've got some adequate recovery, because if you're working out 5 to 6 days a week, strength training every day, there's no adequate recovery in there. So understanding that and the other 4 keys, that it's hard, that it's fast-paced, that it's heavy, and that it makes it difficult on every single set, not just the overall, that every single set is difficult, and that there's a lot of variety, and that there's plenty of recovery. Including all those things, you're going to get the results you're looking for. If you're training with one of my trainers and those things aren't happening, please let me know. If you're not training with one of my trainers, maybe you should consult with one of them. Thanks. Look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.